Gerard, Vandraager, World Trade Center, The Hague, the Netherlands. Recently I read something about a board meeting which took place in London, and the board made a sort of decision about the certification procedures or level. It was not perfectly clear to me what was decided. My colleagues in the Netherlands were wondering, will it be easier to certify or not? And when are you allowed to call yourself a World Trade Center? Because then you come back to the old question, buying the license is not enough. In our view, you also have to perform. Is there any new development on that?
Yeah, that is a great question. There's a lot of development, and it's something that will come up on the agenda later in the program. But let me preface that discussion by thinking about the old certification system. I think our experience was that for those of you that went through the process to certify over the last, say 5 years, the feedback we've been receiving has been that has been a very positive experience. People have gained a lot out of it. They've found it very useful. So as far as those that did it, it was very positive. However, what was not so positive is that on the average that was 6 World Trade Centers per year, which is 1.8% of our member base. At that pace, it would take us 60 years to certify. So clearly there was something wrong in the whole structure of certification that we could only reach, and not so much that we couldn't reach more than 6, 7, but there really wasn't demand for more than 6, 7. There were only 6, 7 that sort of took up their hand and said, we want to certify. And so we had to think about that, and what we came back with was sort of to think about certification a little bit differently. Whereas the old certification system was about certifying in specific service categories, so I want to certify in trade missions and trade education, whatever. So it's pure focus on service categories. There was no requirement around reciprocity. There was no requirement about providing correct information on your profile. And so we said, why don't we create sort of a little bit different type of certification? We'll call it basic certification, and this is what we're going to be rolling out now. It's in the testing phases, and Julia will talk more about it, and Bella will talk more about it. But the background is really what kind of things would we like to see from a given member for that member to qualify as being in good standing, being a good member? Well, we came up with sort of four parts to that question, and these 4 elements are built into the new basic certification that we'll be working to introduce. Still being fine-tuned, but basically we see 4 categories. One is profile information. So we think it should be a requirement that you take the time to go onto our platform and make sure that that information that we've posted about your World Trade Center is correct. Is it the right telephone number? Is it the right address? Are the services correct? That's, to me, it's pretty basic. So that's one requirement. The second requirement is around branding. And for some World Trade Centers, we have a legacy that is near impossible for them to change. So we cannot demand of a World Trade Center that they have to change their name or their logo. We can only encourage them. But we have some that we can't deal with. But what we want to do as a second condition is to say, tell me about your branding. If you're not compliant, what's the plan? Will you ever be compliant? If not, why not? So we can engage with you to persuade you to come on board and become brand compliant. So that's the second element. Third element is reciprocity. And the fourth element is that you pay your dues. So if you put that together and you ask the question, if you take an average member today, that, most of you pay your dues, so that's fine. Less than half of you are brand compliant. The information is sort of scattered, and we don't really know who is reciprocal. So if you move that and you say, okay, we can guarantee that this member, that contact information is correct. They're using the branding guidelines, they pay their dues, and they are offering reciprocity. To me, that is a pretty good World Trade Center. And that is a very simple process. And it should not, in a way, maybe we shouldn't call it certification, but it's just basically house cleaning of being a good member. And I think it really is in your benefits to going through that process, which we want to streamline, make it very easy for you. And so we can get the numbers up. You know, I would like to get 100, 150 up on that system, which would be a major win. And then we have the nucleus of a dynamic network. And then we make sure all the new members coming on board adhere to that. Okay, so that's that part. Then the question becomes, so what about the old certification? You know, the blue level, the silver level, all of you that went through all this effort to certify, where does that leave you? Well, it still leaves you, you know, you have that skill set, you will have that reputation and recognition in the system. But I think in the next phase, we have to think about the whole certification. I think we may be wanting to look at independent third-party certification so that we don't certify our members, but we have some other agency do it. We may be working with strategic partners in the future. I think they should be certified. They're certified to be a partner of us. So I think the whole certification thing is a huge topic. We're starting with this basic certification, which we'll roll out now. We'll test it and introduce it. And then we'll think about how to deal with the next level certification. So it's a huge topic for next year. Very important. But I think it's what can take us from being a heterogeneous network to becoming something very powerful.